Hello, Journey family and friends. Pastor John is with you today, Midweek Conversations, and look who I found. How you doing, my buddy?
I'm back, baby.
Good to see you.
Back and feeling better than ever. Good to see you. Good to
tell
have
them who
you.
you are. Tell them.
My
make sure. Dustin.
My name's Dustin Agard.
Okay, gotcha.
And I have recently applied to work at Journey Christian Church, and this is the interview process. Pastor John
You
said.
shot up the chart pretty quick, bro.
I did shoot up pretty quick.
That's pretty good.
So it is good to be back.
Good to see you. Hey, and he's wearing his Dolphins colors.
Yes, this is in honor of the Miami Dolphins, who I don't normally get to watch because we're blacked out, but they were the Sunday night game this week.
There you go. And they won, didn't they?
Took it to the Steelers, so very, very grateful.
I noticed that.
And my Gators didn't lose, so that's a good weekend.
That's the same with my Wildcats. Did not lose either. It's because they did not play. This past week. Hey, thanks for joining us on Midweek Conversations for the last full week of October.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? We're in the last full week of October right now. It's
flying.
gone by really quick, and this was the second message that I did on Prepare the Way. We started Prepare the Way with an interview with Darren Key and myself a couple weeks ago, and then this was the second message. And this was a pretty strong challenge, is a good way to put it, that I gave to just invest in what God's doing here at Journey Christian Church.
You were fired up, Pastor John.
Well, I was a little intensity with that one. I agree, but
in a good way, I say.
Yeah.
I told him after the first service at Apopka, he came off the stage, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but we do have a second service." I said, "It looked like you just wore yourself out in one service because he had so much gusto." And I thought I told him this. I think it was one of the best messages I've ever heard him give, but specifically the best message on giving. And it was, if you've not seen it, I want to encourage you to go back and check it out. Really, really encouraging. And you shared with us that kind of came out of a meeting that I was actually in and saw it accidentally birth. We were in a meeting with no cameras, no stage, and you just started kind of tearing up and weeping. And you said, "No, seriously, why would you not give to Journey?" And you just shared your heart for how much you love Journey.
Yeah.
In a closed meeting, you're like, "Man, this is the best place to give if you want to make a kingdom difference." Yeah. And as good as you did on the weekend, you just mentioned just a couple ways that people's impact. I mean, there are so many more ways. You could have gone on and on and on.
Yeah.
That their finances are making an impact. And it was a home run. Loved the stories, the real stories that you shared.
Well, and so much of what I shared really just kind of comes from the work God's doing in so many places. I mean, you know, the story I shared with Rachel and John Little.
Yep.
That's really a next gen story.
That's cool.
With their children, and then with the back to school bash. And what God did there, the Megan DeWitt story. It's a Lake County campus story, and Pastor Russell and several of the folks that we mentioned in that story, Julie, Sam, Kristen, Brittany, huge. So that's a Lake County story. Online, I mean, Chandra was a huge part of Pelsy's story. So there's so many things, Pastor Dustin, that, you know, we review on Mondays morning. First thing we do is just kind of, hey, where's God been at work? What have we seen God do? And what are we celebrating? And all those things came right out of that.
Cool.
It came right out of what God's doing. But the congregation doesn't hear that. The congregation doesn't know that. So first of all, it's a little longer message than normal. I promise I won't. I think the time on YouTube is like 48 minutes. So that was a long one. Don't let that discourage you. I think you'll enjoy the stories. But I just felt like I want to share these stories with folks. But I felt even more important before that, we need to not only talk about what we're giving for, we need to talk about what we're giving from. Because if we don't understand what we're giving from, then you're just making a donation.
Yeah,
I
thought it was great.
Yeah, you got to understand that giving is in the blood that bought us.
Yeah,
and that is our spiritual DNA as followers of Jesus. And once you get that, then that changes your mindset on giving. From you know just trying to raise dollars to trying to make disciples.
Yep.
Because stewardship, I believe, is a discipleship issue. But that's the first of 2 weeks that we have to match up to $250,000. So the potential is to see $500,000 up to $250,000 match. So between those two numbers of 500,000 total given.
One of my favorite things with the message was you. And I don't think I've ever heard a giving message where the people, the listeners were giving such positive feedback. They were amening, they were cheering, they were celebrating, they were with you every step of the way. And I thought, that's a mark of a spiritual mature church. And not saying everybody in the room was, or if you clap, you are, and if you didn't, you aren't.
Yeah.
But I thought that was encouraging. And one of the things you and I shared offline, a cool moment for me is on Saturday. I met with someone and they wanted to give a sizable check.
Yeah.
And it was a big check, and it was really cool. And then Sunday morning, I come in and I'm helping someone that is I know really, really having a hard time in their life and in their finances. And they just confess what they're given and kind of all they have in a sense. And it was like the story that Jesus talked about. It was so beautiful to see this person giving. And I thought, man, thank you, Jesus, for letting me see both of these in a span of 16 hours. Because it's not the amount, it's the heart.
Yeah.
And I thought, thank you for that. I got to see that reminder up close. And it was just special.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a difference when you give from abundance and when you give all.
Yeah.
And Jesus' favorite giver was the one that said, I'm gonna give my 2 cents. And that's a beautiful story. Well, hope you can check out the message again. We're going to wrap up this series this Sunday. We'll tell you about that in a little bit as we wrap this up. But let's talk about where you've been. Where you been, bro?
Well, before I get to that, one of the things that we buried the lead, we had 9 baptisms.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. 8 at Apopka and 1 at Lake County.
Yeah, 9 baptisms. I mean, it's just, and you mentioned
on a giving message.
On a giving message, and
people gave their life to Jesus.
And you already mentioned how we've already exceeded kind of what we were thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And then 9 more. 1 a great story in Lake County, and then 8, as you said, in Apopka. That was great. And then we got Serve Day coming up.
Unbelievable. This Saturday, Serve Day. Tell them how many we've got registered right now.
This Saturday, we have our Serve Day. We do twice a year, and we have more locations than we've ever been at. I believe 21 in Apopka and 8 in Lake County.
Yeah.
And the only reason we're doing that many is because we had to keep kind of creating some more, because as of right now, we have 579 people signed up.
It's crazy. 579
That
people.
is absolutely
ready to just
bananas.
Launch out, be released,
Yes.
Bless the community, schools, neighborhoods, widows, organizations. It's a lot.
And what, one of our staff members, Tammy, she said a lot of the people serving, this is one of their first steps.
Yeah, it is.
Towards Jesus.
Right.
This is their first step, and I love that.
And some people, maybe they've never made a commitment to Jesus, but they want to serve.
Yes.
And they want to have a heart to bless. So, this is kind of one of the ways
love it.
that, So, Saturday is going to be a cool day, Serve Day. Just amazing, 579 people registered. And it's still early in the week.
I know.
So we could see, we're going to see a lot of red shirts.
And if you can't be with us, would you pray for us? One of our heart's desires is not to paint buildings. We're not in the painting building business. What we're in is the God getting glory business. And we're praying that people see and experience Jesus through Serve Day. And that's our heartbeat.
And we're in the loving our neighbor business.
That's exactly right. And so we want to love our neighbor, and these are meeting the needs of our neighbors and ways to serve them. So,
yeah. All right, so back to you. Where you been?
I have been, I've been working on some things. So one of the things we've talked about a lot, maybe they don't know as much, transitions are a big deal. And not all of them work well. Not all of them work at all. It takes a lot of work on the front end to ensure that they work on the back end. And so we've been going through some coaching for several years, Pastor John and myself. And so I actually had 2 different trips back to back One was related to someone that's been coaching us and us as a church. Yeah. And then one of them is a cohort of about 7 or 8 pastors from around the nation in Canada.
They're all over the country.
They're all over, and great churches, great pastors. And these are pastors that are in a similar window as me, a 2-year period of either just taking the lead role or about to at some really good churches. And so we get together twice a year, learn. It just so happened to be that both trips were back-to-back, one in Atlanta, one in Louisville, Kentucky. My first time to Kentucky.
No way.
First time to Kentucky. So,
and you're admitting that.
I am admitting that. So I thought, man, my son lives in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I thought by the time after I go to Atlanta, visit with him, fly back and then fly again, cost of plane tickets, and I would only been home 24 hours.
That's the first time you've seen Riley in 2 months.
First time I saw him in 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
And
that's that first time he's been away, and first time you've had one of your children not be at home with you. So that was a big deal catching up with him.
It was emotional. It was so good to see him, and he didn't really have time off. So the way I get to see him is by working.
Oh, wow.
So I'm working with him at the camp to hang out with them, and so I got to really experience it, and just couldn't be more proud of my son. He's doing great, and it was really good. And then so went from Atlanta to see my son who's outside of Atlanta, and just didn't make sense to fly home and go back. So drove to Louisville and spent some time with the cohort, and then ended up meeting some buddies in Nashville. I got some friends in Nashville at a church, was able to hang out with their team, and ended up doing a kind of something special for me with an old student of mine that I've discipled for years in the past, named Trent Haddock. A couple pictures of this. This is Trent when he was in 6th grade, and Trent and I spent 6 years discipling him, and now he's grown up and doing great. He lives in Nashville, so Trent and I did the Spartan race in Nashville.
Oh man!
And it was a 10K with 26 something obstacles, a lot of fun. So I'm coming back.
Good thing you've been going to HitFit.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I was good. Here's what I came back from. One of the verses I read in my quiet time was from on the trip was Jeremiah 7:3, and this is Jeremiah prophesying, and it says this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel says: reform your ways and your actions, and I will let you live in this place. And that verse really stuck out to me, not not in this way that I have some evil that I need to reform. What really stuck out was the phrase, I will let you live in this place. And I just wrote in my Bible that my place is my privilege, and my place is at Journey. And this is where God's called me, Central Florida. I went to some great churches, incredible churches, but every time I went, I said, there's no place like home, Journey. And so I just came just saying, God, thank you for my place. My place is a privilege, what I get to do. The transition, everything is something that I'm grateful for. And so kind of clung to that for about half the trip, just processing that thought. And it was just really good.
Well, that's part of why I've said for the last 12 and a half years, and I said in the message, that Journey is the church I always hoped God would let me pastor.
Yeah.
And by His grace, He did.
Yeah.
And it's so good to see that you feel that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you take that on as well. That it's a blessing. It's a privilege to be able to lead this church. Absolutely. And so that's why you're our next lead pastor. One of the reasons that you're going to be our next lead pastor. So we're excited about that. Well, man, I'm so thrilled about what you got to do and got away and got some coaching yourself, and iron sharpens iron. Pastor Dustin's modest. He spoke to the staff of a really dynamic church led by one of your best buddies, Pastor Kevin Queen.
Yeah.
Cross Point Church in Nashville.
Yeah. Yep.
What a great church.
It is a great church.
Kevin is such a good leader. Yeah. And you and Kevin have had a relationship for many years, very close, share a lot of ideas and things. Kind of like me and my buddy that's going to be here this Sunday.
Yep.
Pastor David Vaughn. Wrapping up this series, I asked Dave, why don't you come in and share with us just as we wrap up the Prepare the Way, for a couple reasons. Number one, he is my best buddy, and I enjoy hanging out with him. So he'll be able to come. I regret that the Journey family has not heard him enough over the years. He's been here before, but it'll be really good to have him come back and share again.
Well, his slate's wide open. He just retired.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Dave just stepped aside from his role as lead pastor, 20 years up in Cincinnati, Whitewater Crossing, and Christian church, and he just stepped aside from that in June. I was there for his final day in June. That was awesome, and so he's going to be with us this Sunday, and that'll be a lot of fun. But it's so life-giving to serve, not just with your staff that you serve with every day, but to have a partner, a buddy that doesn't report to you, not on your payroll. Yep. They're just someone that has your heart for ministry. They want to grow. You want to grow. You help each other grow.
And they're going to tell you when something's funky.
Exactly. And it goes both ways. Yep. And neither one of you are in awe of the other. Yep. You just love each other. And
well, I'm in awe of him and his golf game. He's got a good golf game, Pastor.
Are you talking about David Vaughn?
David Vaughn.
Okay, I didn't know about Kevin Queen.
But I could smoke Kevin Queen on the golf course.
Vaughn's pretty good on the golf course. He's going to join us on a midweek conversation here, and we'll let him brag a little bit. We'll let him boast about his golf prowess on that.
Yeah, Kevin Queen, if you ever watch this, I would destroy you on the golf course. I don't think he plays golf. So
well, that's
at least he doesn't play golf. So now I'm sure he's going to destroy me just because the whole pride comes before the fall. But yeah, Kevin is a great pastor, good friend that I've known for 25 years.
You and Pastor Kevin Monahan and Pastor Kevin Queen and you were all on the same church staff up in Atlanta, Georgia. Wow. Yeah, that's like looking back at one of those, all the assistant coaches that have gone on to be head coaches, successful in other places, and you say, wow, they all served on the same staff.
So one of the things that during Pastor Kevin Queen's, I call him Pastor Kevin Queen's introduction for me, he said some kind things. And one of the kind things he said is, Dustin is the type of person I would always want to work for. And it was awkward, but I felt like I had to shoot my shot, Pastor John. So I get up in front of his whole staff. I said, I never heard you say that. We have some openings at Journey Christian Church. I said, we have a residency. I said, I need to, see where your qualifications are. So I threw it. I didn't hear anything back yet.
Okay.
But he wouldn't respond in front of everybody. So I'm hoping we'll see what happens.
That's so cool. Well,
I'm excited for David Vaughn. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. So he'll be here with us this weekend.
Yeah.
Dave has kind of had this idea, and he's done seminars around the country with it. Coached a lot of pastors. Dave's a great coach for pastors, particularly in the small to medium-sized churches. He's kind of really developed a niche of doing that. But he has a seminar called The Church Working Right, the local church working right. I said, come here and kind of do a message version of that. So he's going to share with us the local church working right this Sunday. So it's going to be great. And it'll wrap up our Prepare the Way teaching series, and it'll close out the second week of the Match Made for Heaven. But Prepare the Way, we trust, is going to continue on through the end of the year with at least 100 households consistently giving, 50 households tithing to Journey, and 10% of the church giving the most generous gift they've ever given, and that the last quarter of 2022 will be the most generous giving quarter that we have had at Journey. So we're praying for that. Ask you to join us in prayer, and hope you can join us this Sunday, 9:30, 11:15 at Apopka, Lake County, or online. And as always, we are loving the journey.